Hello, this is Mr. Chabry, and since it's Halloween, I think it would be pretty cool to read a creepypasta. So this is a creepypasta known as the story of Lost Silver. You see, I'm a very simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver here in the States. I have purposely locked myself out of all media and the internet aside for school purposes. That means no 4chan, no Reddit, no Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the same time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver on its launch date. After my school year ended, I ordered Soul Silver on Amazon. However, it would take a week for it to arrive. I decided that during that time, I would replay my Crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I found out a long time ago my mom threw it away because I told her the save went dead. I was very upset about this. So all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to GameStop and bought a used silver version, as it's the only game left that they had for the Game Boy Color. $10, fairly cheap. I went home and started it up for a nostalgia trip. However, that's where things started to get bizarre, and more than likely the reason you're listening to this story. The Game Freak logo started up as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the cart just errored or something, so I turned it off and back on. The same thing happened. I tried pressing A and start over and over, and all the buttons. Eventually the logo vanished and there was just a black screen for 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game in the previous save file, which was odd, as I was expecting that all these carts would have probably been wiped out by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option just to see what the previous guy did anyway. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name was just 3 dots. I checked his profile, and apparently he had logged in 999 hours. He had all 16 badges, 99,999 Pokédollars, and all 251 Pokemon in the Pokedex. Seeing as he apparently had Mew and Celebi, I'm guessing he either used a Game Genie or was a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what cool team he had. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns, and a 6th Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking this must be some cruel joke by the person who played this game last, but I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyway. As expected, they were different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet, but I identified the word that they spelled, leave. As for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5 with only 1 HP left, and only 2 attacks, Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing that, despite my volume being at max, none of the Pokemon he had their usual cries, just pure silence. After having enough of the team, I closed it. I appeared to be in a room inside the Bellsprout Tower. However, for some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie, that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as if it was just leaning to the side. There was no music at all. There was no exit, no ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but couldn't find the way out. This was certainly not a room that I've seen in the Bellsprout Tower before. I've tried checking any items for an escape rope, but the bag was empty, and there weren't any wild Pokemon either. Finally, I managed to find a ladder, which turned out to be behind the pillar. The screen turned black, and the music finally started playing. I had a sudden chill as I recognized the melody I heard to be the theme that you hear when you listen to the radio in the ruins of Alph, where all the unknown are. I immediately realized that there wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was just in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that though, I checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something more pleasant, but it turned out that there was no radio card, not even a phone card. nor the time cards. There was only a map card in which the player character was just walking in the midst of black. I made Cyndaquil use Flash, but I didn't see any message saying Hurry has used Flash or anything like that. The room just became lit up just like that, and I soon regretted it. The room was a chilling blood red, with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up and down was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made, until I finally made it to the end, which appears to have a sign. I read the sign. It said, "Turn back now." Suddenly, I was asked to answer yes or no, but there was no question asked. I chose yes because I didn't know what it was asking, and the screen went black again, making a ladder climb sound. The unknown radio music stopped, and a few seconds was replaced by the not as creepy Pokey Flute music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used Flash again. Suddenly, it said that Hurry was fainted, which was odd since I recall there was no status condition like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in a battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly, and suddenly he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of the Pokemon were there, but instead all replaced by level 10 unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelled out the unknown. This time, the unknown spelled, "He died." After that, the room was lit to reveal myself in a small room that appeared to be only 4 squares large. The walls of the room were gray brick, as if I was in some hollowed out structure. Outside the room appeared to be a bunch of graves similar to the ones in red and blue. I walked around in that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was clearly a hacked game that some sadist sold to GameStop. However, my curiosity just kept me going. I checked the trainer profile again, only to find out that the sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He seemed to appear less smug, but rather more sad, empty, in a way that I don't know how to describe. For some reason, it also now said that he had 24 badges, which clearly was impossible. After a few minutes of aimlessly wandering, my character suddenly spun around and did the escape rope sound effect. Instead of flying up though, my character spun downward, slowly, as if sinking. After that, the music stopped, and after landing, the overworld sprite of the character was colored differently now. Instead of the red color he usually dons, he appeared completely white, including his skin. I checked his profile, and now the character sprite was white, just as his overworld sprite. And now, including missing his arms, he was missing his legs, and he had bloody tear streaks coming from his eyes. It also said he had 32 badges, which started to disturb me, as this number started to represent something important. I also checked my Pokemon, which this time had 5 unknown and a level 100 Celebi with no nickname. The unknown this time were leveled 15, and they spelt out the word dying. I checked Celebi. It was a shiny Celebi, except there was only half of the sprite. 1 leg, 1 arm, 1 eye. And it had 1 attack. Perish Song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower with the immobile pillar as before, except everything was red now. I walked north for what felt like forever. Eventually, I encountered some generic NPCs. They were all lined up to the side, facing the long, slantish pillar in the middle. They were also white, and nothing happened when I tried to speak to them. I just kept going north until the pillar finally appeared to be chopped off, with a transparent red in the spot. I went up to red, and without pressing A, I suddenly engaged in a battle. The music started again, which it sounded like the unknown radio music, but this time backwards. The battle back sprite of the player matched his front one with bloody eyes, white skin, and the lack of limbs, while red sprite was the same as gold, silver, crystal, except transparent. The text simply said, "Blank wants to battle," as if he had no name, and both of us only had 1 Pokemon each, which was weird because I also had those unknown. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with the half sprite as before. The shiny noise and animation was different, as if the sound was like multiple screeches consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal Pikachu, except he was level 255. His sprite seemed sad, with tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight item Pokemon run menu, I only was given the option to use attacks. Since Celebi only had one, I chose it naturally. Since Pikachu was level 255, it went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering its speed and increasing its other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could learn Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon faint. Not like I had another choice. At this point, it didn't even go back to the fight menu, as the battle continued without me. Also note that there were no animations for this battle. Pikachu used Flell, which didn't do much damage despite his high level and the boost of his stats. Celebi used Perish Song. Nothing happened, it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration. It did a lot of damage, knocking Celebi down to 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me. Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Celebi and Pikachu have 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Look. Not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted, except in the text it said, Celebi died. And instead of the ordinary drop animation, Celebi's back sprite just vanished. For some reason, the Pikachu was still up, even though the Perish Song, it didn't count it as a loss. Pikachu used one more different attack, Destiny Bond. Afterwards, it said, Pikachu has died, and with a slowed fade-out animation, apparently. I was the winner, as the transparent red showed up and said nothing. I was just freaked out, as the transparent red sprite was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his body. The battle just ended at that point and faded out along with the music. I was back in the overworld. With another change to the player sprite, he was now transparent like Red was. I quickly checked the player profile. This time, it only showed his head. No body. He had transparent skin, and the head was zoomed in, showing black void in his eyes. It now stated that he had 40 badges. I backed out and checked my Pokemon. They were all level 20 shiny unknown, which spelled out the word no more. Now there was no music playing, but for some reason I still felt like I could hear something in the game. I was back in my room in Newbark Town. I walked around my room trying to interact with things, as I was too afraid to go down the stairs. Note I said walk, even though my character wasn't moving his transparent limbs at all, just floating around like a ghost. Nothing in the room worked, so I had no choice but then to go down the stairs. Everything appeared normal, except the mom character wasn't home. And after failing to interact with everything in this room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, the door leading outside didn't work. Instead, I just walked right through it into the void. I continued moving south to see what was going on. My house vanished as I headed south into the void. After a long trek south, I finally encountered something. It was the player's regular sprite. I tried to talk to it, and it said, "Goodbye forever." And it vanished. As that happened, it said, question mark, use Nightmare. And at that point, I would not deny that being possible. My player character did another escape rope animation, spinning slowly downward. I'm now in that same hollowed out room, surrounded by graves as earlier. At least I would say I was there. There was no player sprite anymore. I tried to walk around, but nothing moved. There wasn't even the wall bumping noise. I checked the trainer profile with no sprite at all. Nothing left, not even the head. I had no badges now, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders were just skulls. I checked my Pokemon. They were all level 25 unknown. And I read the phrase that they spelled out. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room I was in was covered by the same blocks as the walls. The game froze when the words popped up. Rest in peace. I figured it out. That room was a grave, and the player was dead. He died after facing Red. He was a young trainer who, despite his efforts in collecting so many badges and trying to become the Pokemon Master, he was still unable to avoid the inevitable fate of death. And his efforts were forgotten by the next generation. I was unable to escape the text no matter what I pressed. I tried resetting the game, but it just popped up the same spot. So I decided to give up on that horrible nightmare. So that is the story of Lost Silver. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. And go ahead and put in the comments what you thought about this story. Did you like it? Were you kind of creeped out? Let it be known what you felt about it. And I will see you in the next Pokemon video.